Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm reviewing a brand new Tier 6 French premium medium tank. It is the Bretagne Panther. This is pretty much a VK3002M in a premium form with a fancy paint job and the Bretagne Panther name tag. That is going to be, I believe, the star attraction of this year's Tank Fest, and so Wargaming are rolling one out for this weekend. But just because it's based on something that lots of people are going to be flocking to see in Bovington in the UK this weekend, doesn't mean it's going to be any good in the game. And so I'm going to give you my full opinion of this vehicle, while I currently have no idea how much it's going to cost, and whether I think it's worth skipping, or whether it's worth a pickup. So as the Bretagne Panther is not on Tanks G as of yet, we are going to be comparing this using Wargaming's in-game tank comparison feature. So we're going to be comparing the Bretagne Panther to the VK3002M, which is a Tier 6 German standard medium tank, and also the Tier 5 premium vehicle with preferential matchmaking, the Panzer 5-4, which was just sold in Wargaming's black market. Yeah, so immediately, spoilers boys and girls, the Bretagne Panther is almost identical to the VK3002M. But I want to just take a look at the statistics of this tank anyway and see if the vehicle is going to hold up at Tier 6 and just give you my all-round opinion of it. So immediately, average damage per shot, 135. Definitely not bad. I believe that's the same as the Cromwell at Tier 6. It's not a bad alpha damage, but it's definitely on the lower end when there are vehicles like the T3485M that are packing 180. I'd rather pack 180 than 135. You do have to squeeze out quite a few shots, as this tank has a 14.9 rounds a minute rate of fire, but that's not nearly as good as the Panzer 5-4 alpha. But as your alpha damage is 150 compared to the Tier 5 premium medium tanks 110, that does mean your DPM is at a rather healthy base of 2000. This thing definitely picks apart its opponents rather well at Tier 6. But when you start to get into a Tier 8 matchup, you're definitely going to be taking chunks out of them, but they've got enough hit points to weather the storm, so to say. The premium penetration on this vehicle, on the other hand, is 194. And that's not all that bad for Tier 6, a lot like on a Cromwell Berlin, for example. Okay, gun handling wise, this vehicle has 8 degrees of gun depression. That's not nearly as good as the Panzer 5-4, but it's still not bad. You're going to be able to work a ridge line. But one thing I would like to mention about the Bretagne Panther is this is a big old tank. If we compare it to the German Tier 6 in question here, the VK3002M, we can actually see that it's a slightly taller vehicle. Now this makes its camera rating a little bit worse, and it means that it's very hard to be able to hide this big old French premium captured Panther tank behind anything, because it's just such a tall tank. The aim time on this vehicle is 2.3 seconds and the accuracy is 0.35 base, which again isn't bad, but it's also not very good. And I do feel that unless you're stationary around about this Tier 6 mark, as you can't use vertical stabilizers on these vehicles, you do sort of kind of struggle at engaging opponents on the move, and you shouldn't expect to be accurate, and you're just hoping to hit if you are engaging on the move with these vehicles. So now let's talk about the survivability of the Bretagne Panther. It has 840 hit points, definitely not bad at Tier 6, but not incredible as well. Its armor is 80mm at the front, which is rather nice, although not quite as good as the VK3002M's 85mm. But the side armor at 40 allows you to side scrape very well, right up until you're getting engaged by those pesky 122mm Soviet guns, which will be overmatching your side armor. Now the turret on this vehicle is much better than the Panzer 5-4, which actually has the same hull but at a lower tier with preferential matchmaking, and so you are occasionally going to be bouncing off the turret. But as I showed in the garage, this thing has a big old weak point on top of the tank that sticks up high and proud, and it is like this awful crown on top of the Bretagne Panther that is oh so easy to shoot over a ridgeline. And so do keep that in mind, that if you can see your opponents, they can not only see you, but they can see a big old weak point on top of the tank. Now, the weight of this vehicle is 45 tons, but the engine power is still 700. So even though this vehicle is slightly heavier than the VK3002M and significantly heavier than the Panzer 5-4 Alpha, the engine power is identical across all of these vehicles, which does give this tank the worst power to weight ratio. Now, 45 tons at Tier 6 is great. This thing is definitely capable of ramming, but again, the Panzer 5-4 Alpha with its preferential matchmaking and pretty much as heavy hull and a better power to weight ratio, is far more capable of ramming at tier 5 compared to this tank at tier 6. Nevertheless, if you see one of these vehicles, don't try ramming it. Even in some of your heavy tanks, you're probably going to come off worse for wear. And if you sit in a straight line in front of one of these vehicles, well, you are not going to be long left for the game. You are going to be taking a one-way trip back to the garage. So the top speed limit of this tank is 55 forwards, definitely not bad, and 20 backwards. This thing's fairly mobile. The traverse speed on the vehicle, however, is 31.29 degrees a second. That's not great. It's going to take this tank a long time to turn around, and it's oh so important to keep the thick part of your tank facing towards your opponents when you have that decent 80mm of frontal hull armor. So apart from that, the concealment of this vehicle, as I mentioned, is truly awful. Less than 10% when moving. Base, of course, a good crew will add to this, and the fancy paint job of the tank does add to it a little bit as well. But this is not good camo, and you are going to be spotted moving into position, and you will be spotted even when stationary by light tanks and medium tanks and even heavy tanks with decent view range, and it can be really awkward when you have that big old hull and not the best of armor outside of a good matchup to be able to avoid the damage. In addition to this, I should say, 370 meters view range on the vehicle is decent, and with coated optics and a skilled crew, you are going to be getting up to a very decent spotting total on this tank. Personally, for me, that's 468. However, let's talk about the crew now, and this is where it's quite annoying. This vehicle has a dedicated radio operator. There aren't many French medium tanks that have radio operators, and so this can be incredibly annoying in the tank that you're pretty much going to have to train up a brand new radio operator for your French vehicles because your Batchat doesn't have one, even your AMX-30B doesn't have one, and so that means that if you've got, for example, situational awareness on your commander like I do on the Batchat, or alternatively situational awareness on your loader like I do on the AMX-30B, none of that is going to work. You're going to have it on your dedicated radio operator on this tank. It just feels like you're wasting a little bit of crew training that otherwise you could be slamming into your crews that you truly want to use on your top tier French medium tanks if you're looking to purchase this as a crew trainer. Nevertheless, I think that's quite enough jibber jabber. Let's get stuck into the gameplay. Alright, so let's see how the Bretagne Panther is going to perform in the worst possible matchmaking on the Red Shire map. What am I going to do with this vehicle? Well, the first thing that I want to do is to race into position along this ridge line here, try and use these bushes to maybe spot some of the medium tanks on the enemy team, or even some of the heavy tanks that are making their way across the mid-ridge. And you definitely want to get yourself behind a ridge line or get yourself behind some bushes in this tank, because as I mentioned, the base camo rating in this vehicle is not very good. Even with a near fully pimped out crew like I have on this tank, it is still not excellent. You will be getting spotted at long ranges, and as this is a very fat tank, it doesn't look like a tier 6 medium tank, does it? You are going to be losing hit points very quickly indeed, as you are a nice, big, easy target. Alright, so we're just going to set up here and see what we can find. And whoa, there we go, a lava right out in the open. So we're going to fire a standard round through the side of the vehicle there, and now we're going to start to load premium rounds because, I mean, the standard penetration on this vehicle, while it's not bad, 150 against a tier 8 German heavy tank like the Lava there, it's not going to go too far. I definitely think that you will have an advantage with the premium rounds on this vehicle at 194, but fortunately as well, this is a full premium tank with the credit income that it will make, so we're going to have to gauge whether we're going to make or break credits at the end of this battle. But do keep in mind that the tier 6 matchmaking that I've had when I've been playing this vehicle, on the whole, has actually been pretty nice. Wargaming have done, shall I say it, a good job with the change to the focus of the template system. Sure, I didn't meet any tier 4 tanks while I was playing it, but at least I didn't meet any tier 8s, right? So pretty much all tier or +1, -1 matchmaking. It does get a little bit boring after a while, at least in my opinion. It's a little bit more boring playing the game like that. But at low tiers, I guess it's a necessary evil because it is a lot more playable now that you're not constantly meeting tier 7 and tier 8 tanks on the enemy team. Alright, so T-34 85M spotted out in the open. We actually managed to bounce a Chiri. I'm going to fire again there, and it looks like the T-34 85 pulled far enough back to not get hit by my blind fire. And I'm going to push forward into the bushes here to see if we can spot where that T-34-85 went. And there's the 40 TP. We don't actually quite manage to find the T-34-85. I really want to find him. There he is. He's right behind the ridge. I'm going to put one through the side of his turret. Hopefully we get to sneak in another one. Yes, we do. And when you get going like this, the DPM on the tank is definitely not too shabby. He's locked down, but I want to focus on the higher tier tanks here. I want to focus on the Cheery, see if I can get as much damage into him as I possibly can. Our ammo rack goes off with the first penetrating shot against our tank, and I thought the Jackson was going to get a sneaky shot into me there, so I decided to pull back as quickly as I could. Alright, so a real good start to this game. We're slamming in our rounds, we're using the 8 degrees of gun depression that we have, and we're definitely turning the heat up on the enemy team. I think in an engagement like this, against vehicles like the T-3485M or even against the Cheery, we actually probably have an advantage. Our armor is better than the Cheery, I believe. Probably not better than a T-3485M when I'm thinking about it. Well, actually, maybe it must be pretty close. And our gun performance is definitely not bad. I think it's right up there on par with both of those tanks. And so we're able to get a great start. So we push forwards, we miss a shell into the Jackson, oh disaster. A tier 8 tank destroyer with 120mm main armament puts a round into us. Luckily we avoid the shell from the A43, our armor holding up there, and we even bounce a premium round from the Jackson. So not too bad. That was a rather reckless play by me, but luckily it was a reckless play that we got away with, and we're still in this game. Alright, so I have a bit of a panic, I think. I feel I'm not like flat out panic. I'm not running around like a headless chicken, but a bit of a, oh, that was pretty close, you know, when your life flashes in front of your eyes and you're thinking about how can I get into this game a little bit more safely. And we actually find out where the A43 is, which makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about engaging him. So we're going to put a round through the side of his vehicle, and luckily it looks like somebody else hits him just as we do. We try and put one through the lower plate of the lever, but we're unable to. We're going to fire through the rock there to see if we can get one into his lower plate again, but unfortunately unable to do so. And the artillery has now put us within an inch of our life. With 57 hit points left in this game, we're definitely not looking too good. And so all in all, hopefully I'm giving you an idea of what this vehicle is all about. Your armor does work occasionally. Your armor does work against tier 4 tanks, I guess, even though I didn't meet any of them. For tier 5 tanks, yeah, your armor starts to work a little bit better, but it's definitely not reliable. Really, this vehicle is a mobile slug of hit points walking around with a decent 75mm. It's what a lot of tier 6 premium tanks are, really, when you think about it. Pretty decent mobility, not really having any armor, and a decent enough gun that as long as you're able to penetrate, because either you fire gold rounds or maybe you just get the sides or even the rear of your opponents, that you will do solid. Alright, so we're going to go and put one here into the side of the lever. We're still loading gold. We actually spot the S51 in the side. We're going to put one more through the side of his turret, and I should really be loading standard rounds here, but I'm not. We're just going to finish him off, and hopefully we're going to load standard rounds now. And there's a kill on a tier 8 heavy tank, and I don't know what he was playing at. Should have really focused us there. But I was just hoping that he was focusing on the IS, which it looked like he was, which has allowed us to make some progress here. And up to 2,400 damage in the first 5.5 minutes of this battle. Hopefully we can get a little bit more into this M44. Are we going to manage it? Oh no, are we going to get a shot on the S51? No, we're not going to get that either. And the battle is all over. But not over quite enough for when I compose for one of those tasty thumbnails, right? So this tank is so new that I couldn't upload it onto the WOT Replays website. This was 2,808 experience, although it doesn't really make any sense anymore with all of the bonuses that you get for the vehicle. Let's just talk about the base. 1,440, and we were top on damage by a single hit point, although this T-3485M also had a very decent round as well for a tier 6 tank here. Looks like we get a Leverslyos medal for killing vehicles that were higher tier than us in a medium tank, and we would have made a decent profit with or without a premium account in this game, with the reasonable amount of premium rounds that we did fire in this tank. But of course, when you get into your nicer matchups, the 150mm of penetration that this tank has on its standard rounds are more than enough. There's only really engaging vehicles like the T-28, engaging vehicles against the LUV, or even shooting at long range against the ONI that you probably start to really need those premium rounds. So crew training wise, we get a big old slug of bonus experience, 648 on top of the 2,160 that we got. That'll be nice for your crew training. And so if you're looking to train up some of your French medium tanks, then this might be a good option for you. But personally, I'd probably far rather play a Revelarize. Or would I rather play a CDC? Possibly not. Definitely a Lorraine. Play a Lorraine. I'll play a Lorraine inside the frontline game mode, and I'll get the mother of all crew training. So the Bretagne Panther, like, how do I feel about this tank? I don't know. It's basically, as we saw, a premium VK 3002D. And so if that sounds like an absolute dream for you to have one of those as a premium vehicle in the game, then sure, I don't think you can go really too wrong with this tank. However, for me, it's just another vehicle. It doesn't really do anything special. There are far better premium tanks in the game for making a huge amount of credits. There are far better premium tanks in the game, like the Panzer 5.4 Alpha for stat padding or getting a huge win ratio, or ramming, or frankly just having a lot of fun. But I understand that that was a very rare tank that was only from the from the black market, right? Whereas this thing is going to be freely available this weekend at least. So, what do I think? All in all, that's just not a premium tank that I personally am very excited about. Now that I've aced it inside my garage, I'm probably just going to leave it there. I'd far rather play a premium tank at tier 8. And I'd probably far rather play a Cromwell Berlin as well. Because a Cromwell Berlin has just as good, if not better, gun capacity, but it's the mobility of the vehicle and the camo rating that really allow you to make some crazy wild plays. And I think that, sure, while this is Panther armor at tier 6, and it's definitely going to work a hell of a lot better than the Panther armor does at tier 7, if I want that kind of Panther-like gameplay, frankly, I'd probably just play an E50 at tier 9, and I think it's going to be a hell of a lot more fun. And if I really want to have that kind of German steel kind of armor gameplay, I'd rather play an E75 or a King Tiger at tier 7 than play this thing. Nevertheless, that's it for today, ladies and gents. Hopefully you enjoyed this one, or maybe it was just useful for you. If it was, give the video a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down, and let me know what you think about the Bretagne Panther in the comments below. And just a heads up, tomorrow, the 29th of June, I'll be doing the mother of all special streams on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. I'll even be giving away a code for 10,000 redemptions, at least on the EU and the NA server, where you can get a TOG rental for 24 hours. And so, if you're not doing anything on Saturday, or even if you are, cancel all your plans, come along from about 4 o'clock, well, I know, 4 o'clock UK time, that's 5 o'clock European time, that's about in the middle of the day on the East Coast, or in the morning if you're on West Coast America. I'm going to give all of you TOGs. We're going to try and sign up in TOGs all at the same time, and hopefully see if we can get a 25 or even a 30 TOG game. So, yeah, hopefully I'll see all of you guys then.